Good evening and welcome. My name is Michael Graham. I am an agent with Farm Bureau Financial Services in Spring Hill and have served as the past chair and chair-elect of the Spring Hill Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, and it's my honor to moderate tonight's forum. The Johnson County Public Policy Council, comprised of 10 chambers of commerce serving Johnson County, developed today's questions focusing on business and community issues. I'd like to introduce the House District 5 candidates, if you will. Kansas House District 5 includes approximately the southern third part of Douglas County, as well as the western quarter of Miami County and in Johnson County. It is primarily southeast of I-35 at 199th Street, extending east to Highway 169. Now I'd like to introduce the candidates in alphabetical order, starting with candidate Carrie Barth, who unfortunately cannot be with us tonight. I'm going to go ahead and read her bio. Representing the Republican Party, Carrie is the current representative of House District 5 and is running for re-election. Carrie has been in the business world of HR technology and benefits for over 20 years, helping hundreds of businesses of all sizes and industries, with everyone from recruitment to retirement and everything in between. Her expertise is in quality healthcare with better health outcomes, lower costs for employers, the employee and their family, and an overall better experience. She is a mom of two and has been married for 23 years. Her areas of focus are lower taxes, protecting private property rights, reliable and affordable energy, healthcare, community safety, education, and making it easier to do business in Kansas. She is an advocate to stop human smuggling. For the last 2 years, she has served on the following House committees: Health and Human Services, Social Services Budget, Local Government. She also serves on the Kansas Commission on Disability Concerns. Here with us today, our Democratic candidate, Henry Johns. Henry Johns spent over 48 years in healthcare. At the bedside as a licensed respiratory therapist working in intensive care and emergency departments, and in diagnostics as a pulmonary function technologist and polysomnographic.
Somnographic.
I was even working on that, sir.
You're getting there.
Technologist. I'll have to hear about that. He spent 20 years in management in both private practices, learning the business of medicine and in public services, managing multiple departments in 2 hospitals. He retired and became a substitute teacher. Seeing firsthand the struggles of our public schools, his public service began in Boy Scouts and 4-H, continuing to the U.S. Army, and in Alpha Phi Omega service fraternity at KU, he is a Freemason, a Shriner, and a member of the American Legion and Disabled American Veterans. Now we're going to go ahead and start off with a 3-minute opening statement, followed by question and answers, where Henry will get an opportunity to talk for a minute and a half on those questions. At the conclusion of the forum, he'll have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. Due to time constraints, there will be no follow-up questions, formal rebuttal time, or audience participation. Please note the candidate's speaking order has been randomly determined before the forum began and will rotate throughout the program. So, Henry, if you would like to, let's go ahead and hear your opening statement, sir.
All right, thank you. My opening statement was going to be very simple. I just wanted to introduce myself to everybody. Henry Johns, running for the 5th House District. It does cover a portion of Douglas County, a little bit of Johnson County, some of Miami County, and a portion of Franklin County. So it's a big district. It's a diverse district. I decided to run because 2 years ago when I went to the polls, there was one name on the ballot. I didn't feel it was right that people should go to the polls and not have a choice. So I decided to run. You've heard about my experience in healthcare, 48 years worth of that. And because when I retired, I didn't want to just sit on the porch, I picked a nice, quiet retirement job and became a substitute teacher. I did all that in the middle of COVID. When I announced my retirement, everybody was happy. They were planning a party, and COVID hit. And they asked me to please stay longer to help them organize, so I did. So I stepped away from that when they were well underway and stepped into substitute teaching in the middle of COVID. I got to see the effect it had on kids and the adults. I got to see the struggles of our teachers. And that's what made me an advocate for education. I would say my three top concerns are fully funding our public schools, fair taxes, and preserving women's rights to do what they feel best with their own bodies.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Henry. Okay, so we're going to move into the Q&A part of the forum. We're going to be asking you 8 questions, if you will, and you have a minute and a half to go ahead and answer each one of those. So I'll go ahead and get started.
Okay.
What are your views on state tax policy, being as specific as you can?
Well, which tax policy, I don't know. The state has numerous tax policies. If we talk about income tax, I'm going to say that we don't have a fair system right now, even with a 2-tiered system. If you want to talk about property tax, I'm going to say our property taxes are too high. I don't know what yours are, but mine went up 30%. That needs to be fixed. Right now, our state has to balance what it brings in with what goes out. And we have to prioritize what's important in our state. I don't mind paying some taxes as long as they're going to something that is worthwhile, like our schools, like the sheriff's department, like the EMTs, those people we depend on. So those are things we need to pay taxes for, and I don't begrudge that one bit. But there are other things I question, and I'd like to see them changed.
Thank you. What are your views on K-12 education funding and accessibility?
I believe that currently our K-12 education is underfunded. Now, I've heard legislators talk about how they have fully funded the public schools, and yet having been in the public schools, I know they have not fully funded the public schools. They have especially neglected special education. They funded it maybe up to 70%. You know what? Article 6 in the Kansas Constitution calls for the legislature to provide for the public schools. And that doesn't mean give them a little bit of money. That doesn't mean take a little bit of care for them. It means provide for them. Education is the foundation that our children need to build on to have successful careers and successful lives. And without a good education and access to that education, there's not much future.
Thank you. Okay, what types of economic development policies do you support to encourage job growth and business expansion in Kansas?
There's a lot of different tools in that toolbox that you can use to promote job growth and business expansion. And every community has its own plan how it wants to see itself grow. I think that tailoring those things to each community is the way to go. But tax incentives for hiring, for training, those things go a long way to promote growth. Small business in this country employs over half the people in the country, and it makes up 99% of the businesses in the country. Small business is the engine that drives this country. And if we don't support the needs of small business, like helping them hire people, helping them keep good people, and having an educational system that allows training for people to enter those jobs, small business is going to have a hard time. So we need to support it.
Okay, thank you. What would you do to grow and develop the state's workforce?
Well, just as before, with the workforce, you have to have training availability. You have to have education availability. There was for a long time, until a VOTEC school was finally built in Douglas County, people from Douglas County had to travel miles to other counties, other cities, to get any kind of VOTEC training, to learn a skill, if they wanted to apply a skill. And you know what? When those kids left and they went to welding school or plumbing school or electrician school, and they became apprentices and they went out and started working, they didn't come back to Douglas County because they were wherever they landed, and that's where they stayed. If we want to promote growth within our communities, we have to have those kind of resources available to us, either a freestanding VOTEC or community college with an add-on to it. Because honestly, not everybody can go to a 4-year degree and make it. So we need to have that. Businesses need skilled labor. They need people who know what they're doing.
Okay, thank you. What are your views on the state's role with respect to ensuring access and affordability of post-secondary education?
Well, again, Article 6 of the Constitution says the legislature will provide for education. And not just K through 12. It also includes higher education. And one of the first things that the founders of our state did in 1859 when they wrote this is they set aside lands for colleges. So yes, it behooves the state to support them, promote them, and keep tuitions down so people can actually afford to go to school. I was talking to a young lady who she's paying almost $2,000 a semester in tuition, plus her living expenses. And I think back when I went to school, it wasn't more than $220 for 12 hours it came in. No, that was cheap, right? But that education that I got took me a long way in life. And kids need that opportunity. The state needs to make sure that they have that opportunity.
Okay, thank you. There has been a lot of discussion about foreign land ownership, if you will, and leasing, as well as purchasing equipment containing foreign manufactured parts. What factors do you consider when attempting to balance national security concerns against free enterprise and private property rights?
Well, as a veteran, security of this country is extremely important to me. It's something that I took an oath for when I was just a little over 18 years old. And that oath never expired. And I still feel that way. Our security interests are number one. As far as, foreign-made, manufactured goods in sensitive equipment, either used by the military or even used in business. I know that a lot of foreign-made equipment is cheaper. Parts are cheaper. Foreign labor is cheaper. They don't have the environmental regulations and other regulations that we have in this country. And so a lot of those parts and pieces are substandard. And let's say, I probably wouldn't want to fly on an airplane that got repaired with foreign-made parts. Land ownership, I think that land ownership is between the landowner and the purchaser. And that's what it's about. Unless that purchase is going to directly affect national security, it's private business. I've heard a lot about China. And you know what? China has about 1 acre in Kansas. And that's all they have. I believe that's probably their embassy.
Thank you. That was well said. What are your views on healthcare policy and Medicaid expansion?
Well, my view on healthcare policy, I think everybody's entitled to healthcare. You know, that was my career for many, many years. And, you know, we never turned anybody away, no matter what their circumstance. Medicaid expansion, we know that for a decade, this state has refused to expand Medicaid. Because of that, almost $7.5 billion of Kansas taxpayers' money has been lost. It has gone to California, New York, and Florida, and any place else who did expand Medicaid. They're getting our dollars. So to me, expanding Medicaid is keeping our dollars here. The upside to that is it would help 150,000 Kansans, over 40,000 of those are children, be insured so that they could go to the doctor's office when they were sick, so that they could get care and didn't have to put things off. The more you put off things, the worse they become. And we don't want people to be in situations where they're foregoing medication or foregoing doctor's visits because they don't have insurance.
Okay, thank you. How to control over decision making is divided among the state legislature and local governments, including local school boards. On issues such as taxation, economic development, and education has been a matter of debate. What are your views on this issue?
I believe you're asking if I think the state should be in charge of our school boards and economic development. And the answer is no. You know, the basis of our democratic republic is home rule. And if your city council wants to do something, if they want to allow something or not allow something, that's up to them. They're elected officials. They're the ones who are closest to the problem or to the thing that's being brought up. And they're the ones who should make that decision. The local school board should make decisions. They're guided, obviously, by the state. But at the end, it should be the local folks who decide what they do in their own community.
Okay. Well, that concludes the part of our Q&A. Henry, you're going to have 2 minutes to present your closing statement. Please be sure to highlight the most distinguishing things and what makes you differential from your opponent.
Okay. Having actually had a career in healthcare, I do know the business of healthcare. My time in private practice taught me about that. Until I had entered that private practice, the business of healthcare was never something that crossed my mind. We simply went in to work every day and took care of sick people and tried to make them better. But once I was in a management position in a private practice, I discovered that, you know, if you don't make the cash register ring, you can't keep the doors open. And so I learned all about insurance and billing and all those things that go along with, you know, what's a customary charge for a Band-Aid? You know, what can you charge and not be grossly overcharging somebody, but still make a profit? So that was very important, and that's one of the reasons that the Veterans Administration recruited me to come and manage some operations in their hospitals for a while. And, you know, we made some changes that actually saved the government some money and actually gave better products to the veterans, and that was important. That said, like I said, I believe in home rule. I believe in business being able to grow and thrive. Those are all important things. Education is probably top on my list of important things. Taxation is important. Reducing our taxes, maybe bringing back the local ad valorem relief fund. I don't think it's called relief, but that was something that was done away with. That since 1937, it worked great, keeping our property taxes down. We need to go back to that. We need to go back to letting the people keep some of their money so they can invest it in their own communities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that concludes our forum for House District 5. Thank you to the candidate for participating in today's program. On behalf of Gardner and Spring Hill Chamber of Commerce and all area of Johnson County Chambers, thank you to everyone for taking advantage of this important opportunity to learn about our candidates. For more information about our candidates, videos of these and other candidate forums, and advanced voting details, visit www.votejoco.com, J-O-C-O.com, and please share this voter resource with your colleagues, family, and friends. With that, thank you, Henry. We all appreciate your service in the military, and as well as in our communities. We're adjourned.